Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Małgorzata Ćwikła. I'm assistant professor at the Jagiellonian University in Krakow, and I have the great pleasure to moderate the conversation tonight, which is called Theater for the Climate. And we are meeting today as part of the Open Air Theater Festival taking place in Wrocław right now to talk about the climate issues. Before we begin, I would like to introduce the participants of the debate. We have two guests, two wonderful women who will join me and will discuss with me the issues of climate in context of the theater. First, warm welcome to Agnieszka Bresler. She is an actress, director, theater educator, and social activist. She holds an MA in acting from the postgraduate drama school of Manchester Metropolitan University and a diploma in physical theater practice from Adam Smith College, Scotland. From 2012 to 2017, she co-led Jubilee Foundation, an artistic organization aimed at people in danger of social exclusion. For 5 years, she co-led a project called Unlocking. I'm at male prisoners at the Wrocław Penitentiary #1. And since 2016, she is the leader of Women's Day Collective, which aims their artistic activities at women in danger, also of social inclusion and inhabitants of prisons and homeless shelters. She was nominated in 2019 to the Gazeta Wyborcza Warto Award, and in 2020 she was granted the scholarship of the President of Wrocław. In her work, she perceives and uses theater as a tool for social change. Welcome, Agnieszka.
Hi, hello.
And my second guest tonight is Joanna Tabaka, who is trainer and blogger. She has conducted over 100 workshops for cultural institutions in Poland, all over the country. She is double scholarship holder of the Ministry of Culture and National Heritage, and she runs two blogs. First, it's called Widok na widownię, which is audience on site, about various aspects of building a close bilateral relationship with the audience of cultural activities. And the second one, Green Cultural Institution, about how to become an environment-friendly place of culture. Joanna is also author of two publications on pro-ecological activities in cultural institutions. First is entitled Kultura naturze z syrenką w tle, Culture and Nature with the mermaid in the background. And the second one is called Zielona Instytucja Kultura, Kultury Green Cultural Institution. Both available on the internet. So if you are interested, you can download the publications too. Our meeting will take the form of moderated conversation between three of us, which, however, doesn't change the fact that we would also invite you, our audience, our listeners, to get engaged. So I encourage you to ask your questions on the chat on YouTube. And at the end, I may also invite you to express your feelings, your comments via a different way, but this will come at the end. So I guess we may start. And once again, please follow us and ask your questions, write down your comments, and get involved, because this is about the involvement and engagement. And during today's discussion, we want to talk about art, and especially about theater in the context of the climate and the global warming. Although the word crisis keeps coming up in public debates devoted to this topic, I guess we should try to look at the problem in a slightly different way. And we want to invite you to consider this topic from more affirmative way and based on engagement. So I would propose to draw attention to the issue as action, responsibility of culture, and of each of us as a participant in the world of art. And although we can avoid the word crisis and talk about empowerment, engagement, I nevertheless would like to use the word fight and try to figure it out. What are we fighting for? What are we fighting for now when we think about theater and the climate? And actually, I don't mention it by accident. It refers to an inspirational quote from Hemingway, and I would now quote, "The earth is a fine place and worth fighting for." I guess we all agree we want to fight for the earth. We all consider earth as a fine place. Thus, my first question would be, what are we fighting for today in June 2021? Is this a fight or an invitation to become active and aware? If I may ask you, Joanna, to start and to address my question in your way, from your perspective, please.
Yes, we were talking yesterday, and I said that the word fight is not adequate for me, and I would prefer to turn it in a conversation or inspiration, seeking for inspiration or awareness, because where there's fight, there's war, and this is already sounding very heavy, and we know that talking about climate is really hard, it's really emotional, it's really depressing. And if we look at that from psychological standpoint, the harder emotions, the tougher emotions, we want to get away from them. Yes, from the topic. This is our coping mechanism. So I'm trying to talk about climate during my workshops or meetings in the way that it's more like sharing what you do, what you can do, and trying to destroy stereotypes about being ecological. That is, for example, expensive, or it's hard, yes, or and also if people say, I don't want to do it, it's too hard, and I say, okay, that's your choice, because I'm not the one pressuring on them, but I know that with time things will be working, because what we're forgetting about, that change is a process, not like something that happens now immediately. And this is what we have to, if you inspire conversation right now, maybe something will change. And also we can show like good examples. This is the best way to learn, to show, not put pressure on somebody who doesn't know or does something correctly. Like we always have like a play, like little drama play on workshop or something, like, okay, I'm feeding the dogs with bread, which is not healthy for them. And you can see this like happening all the time. And please approach me, trying to change my mind. And people are like, it's bad for the birds, stop doing it. And of course, and then I say, how would you feel if somebody like stranger comes up, like says, stop doing it? Of course, you will feel like disorientated, you feel attacked, you feel like you want to defend yourself or just ignore. And then I ask, please play it in the way that you would try to convince me or start a conversation. And then people come and it's like, oh, it's very pretty weather today. Yeah, yeah, it's pretty weather. It's like, oh, great, you're feeding dogs. I bet your children love to do that. Yes. You know, I read last week that preferably you should use seeds to not the bread, because it harms the dog. And yeah, that's a different approach, because I tried it in my own life, and you can see like the difference. So I think if you try to fight, you will get resistance, especially in our country, when our tradition is to resist if somebody orders us to do something. So that's it. Like, for me, but what we're fighting for, of course, we're fighting for, or we're trying to make people aware that they don't have to spend money or do great big things, because usually we are thinking about great big things, especially also in theaters or art institutions, that you have to have solar panels or you have to have a green roof. And if you have like proper lighting that is, like takes low energy, it's fine. If you recycle and separate your garbage, it's fine. If you don't buy plastic or water in a plastic bottles for you or for the audience, it's a small step, but count the bottles in 1 year, how many bottles you would produce. So you don't have to be ashamed of little things, especially that the little things often get forgotten. Yeah, if I talk with someone and ask about this, that, do you have big windows? And it's like, yeah, we do. And it's great. You use the light of the day, you don't have to, use the light bulb. So it's already a plus. So for me, it's like simple conversation opened also for people who have different mind, different attitude, not to traumatize them, not to anger them, not to accept them. And if you talk like that, I think there's something will change, because somebody is approaching you nicely and, getting to know and letting you know that it's okay to be yourself, not shame you. And also about shaming, it's green shaming, something that is very hard to distinguish, and companies do, and also art culture institutions, not knowingly, they do things that they think are pro-ecological, but in fact, it's greenwashing. Yes, it's not true what they do. The impact is not so big. For example, you do workshop and you use materials like plastic or cardboard, you mend them together with glue, or you use, new paper, etc., etc. Instead of rocks or sticks, like things that can go back to nature, and then there's no impact in the environment. And about theater, I was wondering yesterday, it's like your own body, even without the costume, is the most zero waste like tool in art. Yes, if you do performance or dance or even a play without all this entourage, your body is the most. Of course, you have to eat, etc., etc. It's like the most zero waste material you can use. So for me, that's already the actor himself, and his body is like the most zero waste thing.
Thank you, Joanna. I guess we are talking about the pure theater, which is very much connected to the theatrical tradition in Wrocław. And a few days ago, I heard about Jerzy Grotowski, also considered from the point of view of ecological approach and reduction and slow down and all the topics we are discussing right now, which are in fact sometimes just a fashion for a given period of time and not conscious activity introduced and implemented on a daily basis like you described. And Agnieszka, I wonder what is your perspective and your experience, because you are actively practicing. You have your experience as an artist, director. You are working during workshops and performances with people who are at the danger of social exclusion. So you are using stuff. You are using stuff on the one hand, and you are also inviting real people, so to say, to make theater. What is your fight, or maybe you would prefer to use some other words?
When I was listening to Joanna, I was thinking that she's really saying that her fight, or maybe mission, maybe I'm going to use the word mission, is to create dialogue, and I thought it's very beautiful, because my answer is really the same. I could use the same words. I see my personal mission as a fight for the responsibility that we share as artists in shaping the society that we live in and its future. Because I believe that art has a great impact onto our lives, or maybe rather it can have a great impact because it has the tools. And if it has the tools, it also shares the responsibility for using them. And And in this respect, I see theater as especially powerful and capable vessel, because of the fact that theater cannot be created by an artist and then disregarded by him or her because it was not good enough. Theater, for the realization of the creation process, needs a spectator. And it is in the moment of meeting that the art is completed. And therefore, partially, we could say that the spectator shares the responsibility for the art. I always perceive theater as created for another human being, so as a platform for a meeting, as a sharing. And I think that this phenomenon creates a unique opportunity for a true dialogue. When I realized that in my professional theater practice, I moved many years ago into the domain of exclusion, of working with people on the margins of society and creating performances with them, but performances that are designed as meetings with the audience, as openings of a social dialogue. I think I would also like to say that I believe that theater can be an environment for the growth of empathy. And it is the empathy, the increase of empathy that I'm fighting for in June 2021.
Great,
Yes.
thank you very much. So I guess after 17 minutes of our talk in June 2021, we have already two important points of reference, which is dialogue and conversation, and empathy versus awareness. You have just mentioned, Agnieszka, so thank you very much. And I would like to also refer to the cultural institution, because you are coming from two different areas, I would say. Joanna, you have a lot of experience in working with institutions. You have worked at a great big theater in Warsaw, so you know it from inside, which is an institution. And Agnieszka, you are more or less outside by doing your thing and working in theater too, but less in institutions. And my question is, do you see any difference between big established theaters which have access to better technologies, resources, know-how maybe, and small organizations, also grassroots initiatives whose driving force is mainly passion and, as you said, Agnieszka, the need and to awake empathy? What is easier, to become ecological, if you are big institution with experiences, know-how, or small organization with passion mainly? Joanna, if I may ask you first.
Sorry, microphone. Maybe Agnieszka would like to say something first. Okay. Simply, it's not so easy. But lately, one small theater, one representative of small theater was watching my webinar, and she wrote me back that they have all of this I mentioned because they work in a small barn in the countryside. They have green all around. They have green walls. The building is white, so it reflects the light. You don't have to, put IC inside. They borrow scenography and the costumes from people in the village. They don't buy anything new, and they return it back after the show. So it's zero waste in this case. And when she was talking about it, I thought, maybe smaller place, like if the place is small, it's so much easier, especially if it's in a green kind of area, yeah. And they retain water also, like they have like a big container where the rainwater drops in, and it's all natural. But the bigger institution, it's like a bigger ship. It's very hard to turn around bigger ship than a smaller boat, and therefore it's very hard to include all the people who work inside to have the same attitudes yes, there will be very different attitudes. And what I discovered that in big institutions, for example, they don't know what they have already. Yeah, some people do, they're like the knowledge holders, but most of the people are in other parts, like technical team, or I don't know, accountants. Yeah, but I met very pro-ecological accountant in one gallery, so it's not entirely true. They don't know what is exactly done. Yeah, even when the changes are introduced, they are not introduced inside the team, because we have, I think, tremendous problem with internal communication. Of course, that's the other problem, but I said to one institution, if you want to get green, you have to meet. Because they said, usually we don't meet. And I said, without that, you won't become green. So first we have to mend a little bit the way we communicate in the institution to make the knowledge, flow of the knowledge. That's why I love when the whole institution asks me to perform a workshop, and I know that their knowledge is on the same level and they know as well. And what funny is, okay, that's I'm going around, but small, big, yeah, big institutions, they can afford, and they have people who know how to write, yeah, for money, yeah, they know how to collect the money, know where to find funding, etc., etc. It's more flashy. It's more, it's the same with other areas like promotion, because the experts are gathered in the big institutions. Yes, in the small one, everybody has to do everything. Maybe that's why they communicate better because they're not divided by floors or walls. So that's my idea of it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. And Agnieszka, so what would you say?
I think I would again start with the word responsibility. I'm a big believer in the responsibility that arts has, and I think that I see cultural institutions in general, big or small, as outposts. Forepost for also social change, and they, I believe, should be constantly striving to be more conscious, to raise awareness, to educate. Firstly, within themselves, and then later outside of its walls. I see a lot of good things happening, but I have to say that I think that raising eco-sensitivity, I would call it, within cultural institutions very often is initiated not from the top, but from by the bottom, by the employees themselves, like giving up the usage of plastic bottles and switching to tap water, like moving activities outside of the buildings, caring for on-site gardens, working with the local community. These are all initiatives that are being undertaken in the organizations that I know by the employees in Poland. And I think there are, of course, more, maybe more pressing charges to be made changes that need to come from the top. I think that the major one of them is the problem of overproduction and overwork that comes from that follows it. And of course, large organizations, they face large challenges due to this overproduction issue, which, due to low resources, is not really a problem for the small organizations. But I think that both the small and the big organizations are made of people, and it is those individuals that have the responsibility of taking action, of becoming more eco-aware and eco-sensitive on all levels of administration, production, creation. And the major difference that I see is the difference in the style of leadership. Because it is more common for small organizations to question the traditional work hierarchy and try more collective management style, which allows mutual education, easy flow of ideas, dialogue again. And in that respect, yes, I believe that it is easier for small organizations to make changes.
Thank you very much, Agnieszka. I'm a little bit surprised also what you have said, because you have introduced an interesting perspective, putting together the style of leadership and the grassroots initiative. So we have two levels which have to meet again, which have to be in dialogue too. You have to be able to start a discussion with your boss, with your colleagues, to achieve something, to give to trigger a discussion, and to hope and to for fruitful dialogue. I very much appreciate that what you have mentioned, and we have already discussed about the institutions, but I would like to also ask you about the artists themselves and concrete projects which can be perceived as good examples for ecological awareness and different actions aiming at reducing ecological footprint and so on. And I have the impression that artists are increasingly turning their attention to climate change. They try to generate new ways of seeing global warming. We have plenty of examples in Polish theater. I just mentioned a few of them, like Agnieszka Jakimiak and Komuna Warszawa, Weronika Szczawińska, and many others who address climate change. In the visual arts, the works of Joanna attract worldwide attention, which are extremely interesting and connected to post-human philosophy and so on. So we may say that artists have something to say. They feel the mission. They feel the responsibility to trigger the action and to initiate the dialogue. And I wanted to ask you what examples come to your mind when talking about artists involved in the climate problem. What projects you would like to put on the table?
Thank you very much for this list. I would like to add to it non-mainstream examples coming from my city, from Wrocław. Firstly, we have in Wrocław a resident musician and theater artist from New Zealand, Sam Alty, who runs fantastic workshops called Voice Ecology. In these workshops, he allows the participants to explore how their voices and expression can be enriched and empowered by considering ourselves as part of the environment. And one of the places where he runs this type of work is Brzezinka, the former forest base of the theater and para-theater activities of before mentioned Jerzy Grotowski. And I believe that both artists and ordinary citizens can benefit greatly from such experience. I think that our big common problem is that we have truly forgotten that we are part of something larger. And a second work that I would like to mention is a performance entitled "It Will Finally Be Warm," produced also at the Grotowski Institute within their program called Non-Fiction Theater, Teatr na faktach, because the script of this particular performance was written in a collaborative process by activists working across Poland and Europe, and it speaks of civil disobedience, community ideas, and the struggle for a better tomorrow. And I applauded for the bridge that it tries to create between theater and activism, searching real data, real voices, and mostly for working in a collaborative manner. There is not one director of that piece, but it's a collaborative process of artists. But if I may speak a little longer.
You may, of course.
Thank you. I've been thinking a lot about theater in respect to the topic of ecology, preparing for this meeting today, and I see a great challenge and I see a great opportunity. Climate change is something that we've been hearing about for a really long time. We have been given, we could say, many warnings, and yet it is as if these warnings are not really arriving to us, like they have no power to influence us enough or to confront the problem intensively enough to move us into action. I want to quote a sentence from Frederick Lordon that I found. The thought of the catastrophe has not yet reached the figurative state that is to the imagination. I believe that theater can transfer the ideas to the sphere of the imagination. It can make us see ourselves in the reflection of the stage, and ideas become influential only when they are passed on through affects and then into action. And the challenge that I see is that theater is greatly limited to presenting human stories. Its psychological, sociological, and political framework. We talk of national dramas that deal with the topic related to the history and experience of a given nation in the specific cultural, linguistic, political context. We talk about universal dramas that are focused on interpersonal relations and psychology, but the challenges of globalization and in particular of the climate change make this perspective very little adequate because islands of plastic in the oceans are made up of transnational generated waste, and radioactive materials cross borders very freely without being controlled, just like viruses as we are experiencing it now. It is therefore necessary for theater to go beyond social stories, to make that step in order to build a global perspective, taking into account human and non-human beings. I think it is a great challenge and a great opportunity for theater. And after all, theater is a medium in which relationships are the basic material.
Thank you very much, Agnieszka, for your complex answer to this question. I like very much the examples you have mentioned, and I also completely agree with you that we are not tribes anymore, located in different separated areas. We are all together in a way. We are a global village which is responsible for the trash that we are producing every day. And it doesn't matter where and who. Joanna, what would you say?
I would disagree. I would disagree because we're talking too less about the local issues that are close to us, that we can touch, that we can see. Like, if we go outside, we probably will see garbage on the street. Yeah, and this is something that is there. And as I remember from my psychological studies, the more global you do it, the more widespread, the less people are interested in that. Because if people are like invested in the local area where they live, it's easier for them to create an action and reaction, yes, for this, what is happening like in this area. Like, for example, of course, it's visual arts, but the artist freshly cut forests, yes, and the artist took other friends who are mothers, and they sat down on this, chopped part of the tree, and they were feeding their children. Yeah, but it was made locally, but of course it got like all over Poland. Everybody heard about this. And for me, it's very important to show the local problems because we're forgetting about it. Like right now, every intervention about one tree being cut down, it's very important, yes, because sometimes we win with that. We know that Poland is being like chopped with a very big axe, and this is like very nice thing that we could do for people to see what's happening around. That's the one thing. And the other thing, I think there's a big potential in child's theater. There is this kind of learning by watching. Of course, adults do it too, but children are like the most sensitive to see and do what they experience. So showing, because what you were saying, for me, it's like an artist versus topic of ecology or global warming. But how much from that you can take without having higher education, to not feel excluded by something which is so exclusive, like a theater. Yeah, but of course I know there are smaller groups in towns, etc., etc. But this big commercial theater, I think it's very hard to show like the small things, the practical things. So I think child theater here has a lot to offer, to show how to handle something, or or what is happening, what's going on in like more simple thing, why you have to save water or something, but create a story and narration around it, using like actors dressed like animals or something, so this is a big potential. And I think yes, and we should talk about the local things, because I think that engages more, and as I said, creates more like a reaction. Of course, the global things are also important, but I'm like I'm not exactly like sure to whom this message is directed to. And in visual art, there's this nature, this art, nature art, like very something basics, which was in 70s, 60s, and they used natural raw materials to create art. And I think, of course, one is the topic, what we're talking about. The second is how it's produced and how, like, for example, basic problem, which I heard in that you have to print a lot of different, files because you're updating the, the screenplay. And the actors don't want to have it on like readers, but they have to have it printed, and it's, it takes a lot of paper. Of course, it's like micro scale, but for example, if you buy new things, if you create a construction and scenography every time anew, with materials that would not, go back to nature, even recycling, is a trap. You cannot recycle forever. Plastic and paper will downcycle in the end, like after a couple of uses. So it's a trash in the future. So it's you also said about the traveling. Yes, I was working not in a great theater, but Teatr Warsaw. That theater was known all over the world. They traveled to China, they traveled to New York. There was a lot of traveling. And I remember they are opening Edinburgh Festival with, I think, Hamlet or Macbeth. I'm sorry, it was a long time ago. I confused something, but they have to have like this big cars and, to fly through and to deliver all the scenography, because Grzegorz Jarzyna used to like it very rich, like very, of course, if you enter theater and you see something like that, you're like, oh my God. But I remember one thing. There was a time that Teatr Warsaw had like they cut the funding. So Grzegorz Jarzyna, what did he do? Of course, he invented to do plays with minimal scenography. The background was projection. Yeah, so we have a room or something, which is very simple, and on the set it's like a table and a stools, yes, and nothing more. So he simplified. He made it shorter, an hour. He played 2 times a day, but short ones, not 3-hour ones. He minimalized it, and I think to the benefit of the audience as well. Yes, so it's a question about the resources, but it's a very tricky thing, because if you have too many resources, you are always wanting to, go higher, bigger, more like, But if you, of course, there's place for this theater and that theater, yeah, and if you preserve. And I know that theater is great at preserving, like the clothes, and all the other things, and reuse it. But but you see, it's like the small theaters who are not well invested, they already are creative, have to be. So they're more closer to like creative, like a positive thing for the environment, but also promotion. Yes. Like tons of paper, very colorful, very thick, like theater, this high-end theater. I always like think the prints are like very, thick, like look very professional, and there's a lot of them. And thank God, pandemia, like the COVID, of course, it is awful. But the one benefit is that art institutions stopped producing so much paper, so much flyers. An example from theater from Berlin, I think it was Volksbühne, but I'm not sure. They had program for 2 months ahead. So they only printed it for like 2 months. Yes. They have not printed like small leaflets for every event. They just produce like a program early enough to produce like less flyers that you can use longer time, for example. In Poland, I don't think it's possible because how it works. It's always like, oh, there's something new, we have to wait, and actually the last day is like 5 days before the end of the month we produce the program, for example. So it's the way you think about promotion and about and I have 2 leaflets before the pandemic hit that are actually having kind of eco approach. But I have to have 2 minutes because I have to bring it back from the other room. I forgot to bring them. So give me like 30 seconds, okay?
Okay, sure. Should we count or should we wait just? I guess we wait because what Joanna said is highly interesting. However, I hope no policymakers are listening to us, because if they heard that when the theaters are getting less funds, also less money, in fact, that they force the artists and the institutions to be more ecological aware. But Joanna is back, so we can switch to the examples you have prepared for us.
Okay, maybe this is not the... Oh, yeah. Okay, so this is, you see, it's not shining paper because you would not use the shining paper, but inside there's like, I don't know if it's seen well.
I guess I don't see, but...
Okay, maybe, no?
Okay, yes, now I see. Mm-hmm.
So inside's like... that we print this on ecological paper, and it's 100% from recycling, and it's the comparison between this paper and the regular paper. So it's 330 kilos less waste, 39 kilograms of CO2 less, and it's etc., and 536 kilograms of less wood used. Yes, so, and energy and water, it's almost 10,000 liters less of water. So it's amazing that they compared it, but it's also already still a quite huge thing. Yeah, there's a lot of empty space, a lot of colorful pictures, because you see, there's empty space. So when I issued my 2 books, they are page to page. There is no page that is blank. I know it's like anti the traditional way you should print the books or produce the books, but and here you have Instytut Teatralny, so theatrical institute that is located in Warsaw. See, it's all like white and black, yeah, so no colorful paint. And here you have, they even got like 2 labels that are like labels, yeah, that it's like showing that they have approved that this program is better. And they also reduce, and they say how much they reduce printing this on gray, this recyclable paper. So of course now I would recommend even go further, yeah, because that was like 2 years ago. But you can see that it's already happening. It's kind of sinking. Yeah.
Thank you, Anna. Great examples. And by accident, I talked to one person from another theater in Warsaw a few days ago about ecological issues. And during the pandemic, I observed the initiative that they didn't want to print programs anymore. They decided to just produce PDFs and just to offer a digital program. And what they did, and I found it extremely inclusive and interesting, they asked the audience to share the feedback, to share their comments, to share their impression, how it works. Should they switch back to the printed programs, or maybe the PDFs are enough? And interestingly, they decided to print some programs, however, less than before. And they also included an information that this printed version is actually addressed to the people who are not able to download the PDF.
They're excluded from the computer, the internet. But it has 2 ways, because I saw their program online and I could pinpoint some things I would change, and probably maybe I would write to them. But we did something in Teatr Warszawa, Teatr Warsaw, the theater that, you see, this is like, each show has description, picture, etc. But you can simplify it, like just do for a month. When you play, how much it costs, etc., etc. And this you can print as a big poster, 1 or 2 that is inside and on the glass for people to look outside. And you have only 2 posters printed, but people can check at the spot. I was also working with seniors, and also we did something like print on demand. So when somebody elderly or somebody who wanted the program, like the monthly, they came and I asked, do you want me to print you the program? Yes. And then we print on demand, we did. And the things that going online is not 100% ecological, and some people know about it. But when I do workshops, I discovered that this is like the thing that people like the less know, like about the, the footprint that we create by using internet. And it's about design. It's about user experience. Who would print PDF with colorful pictures and black pages, from the printer? Yeah, why? Yes, you should like give like a phone number or something. Like in the old days, it was like, what it's playing, but you'd called and ask, what kind of play is it? Yeah, and you had a conversation about it. So I think like we have to simplify. So I also saw that you can download it by QR code in Nowe Teatr, because I was there and I was taking pictures inside to see what they're doing. The other things that they're doing that are amazing, they have so much space to park your bike. I think I haven't seen, it's not like free places usually, and they have the proper kind of bike racks that they won't stall the bike, like this only for the back wheel. But also they have like the space is covered with concrete. So they start to get rid of the concrete, and the grass sprouted from, that. And they put like hotels for bees, yes, and etc. So they try to uncover this big place which is covered with concrete, which is like, and from the first, like before they even started, it was clear the policy will be about not to travel by car, because people would thought that they will, it's a parking lot, yeah, that they will turn it in a parking lot. But they closed it and said, no, you cannot drive here with a car. You have to either bike, either you have to take a bus. So this is kind of approach that started from the beginning, and they were aware of it, even if they got like bad reviews because of that. Yes, because I want to feel comfortable and I want to drive my car in front of the theater and stop there. So this is examples, but also a project like in Teatr Powszechny, Teatr Powszechny in Warsaw. It's not only about what you do with the play. We changed the way the art institutions function. There's no longer only theater, but theater is also having exhibitions, meetings, etc., social programs. Yes. So this theater is very active with eco approach, as you can say, and they started with like having external garden, vertical garden, which now is getting more popular. Also, Teatr Zagłębia in Sosnowiec, in the southern town in Silesia, we also have a garden. Yeah, so it's and they have these flowers. Yeah, for the bees to have something to eat, and they also put the beehives in Teatr Sosnowiec on the roof. So you have like they created like this kind of environment for the bees to gather there and feel good. So and also Teatr Zagłębia, the last news from last month, they are building another part of the theater. But in I think 60% they use reusable materials, like they from recycled. So they're not buying only part of it will be new, and the rest will be taken from buildings that were already built. So this is also thinking about the architecture and the space. So you see, it's not only about the play. There's this what you produce and show, and you can produce and show plays not about the nature, not about the climate change, but you can also, during this production, show positive ways to take care of the climate. It's theater, of course, but I was laughing if all the Polish shows, like Not Wspólne and etc., they would show people drinking from reusable bottle, yeah, or dividing the trash properly, or I think it will have an impact because people will see it. And I thought of that because one time somebody said that if they show people reading more or show bookshelves filled with books, probably it will impact the level of reading in Poland. So the most simple example is that it's like a free kind of, spaces. First is internal, so everything we do inside the institution. So how we administrate, how we manage, but also what kind of knowledge people have, like our workers. Do we increase their knowledge? Yes, like by meetings. And I always invite to create like a green shelf or a green library where you put all the books that you can just take home, read, and return. Or have regular meetings about one aspect, like how to save water, how to save garbage, like to reuse garbage, blah, blah, blah. And the second one is what you show the audience. Yes, so the program ecological, and also how your space, public space, is created. Because sometimes there is no, there's division. Like inside you have you do the segregation of the garbage, but outside you have like garbage can. Or inside you drink water from tap, and outside you put plastic bottles for the audience to drink. So you have to always remember to think holistically, like the whole thing, the whole package. And the third thing is to increase the awareness, but also cooperate to become a voice. Art institutions can become a voice and partner to other art institutions around to create new policies, to have influence, and to inspire people to be active. Yeah, to show how you can be show activism, not to only take part in rallies or something, but also how to do a small part. Like I call it soft activism. So this is three spaces around nature, ecology in art institutions for me. Okay, and I don't remember what the question was. I stopped talking.
Joanna, it doesn't matter. You have told us plenty interesting things. So thank you very much. You have showed a great example. So I guess the change is already happening. And what I wanted to ask you now, Agnieszka, because Joanna has mentioned the children theater, and you are also working with young people. So what you have learned from them, what they are doing better maybe, because the youth of today is often very much aware of the ecological issues. What is your experience with the young people?
I think that the big difference is that the young people cannot disregard future as something that they won't live long enough to see. So they feel that the fight for climate is really their fight. And of course, we could say that a great leader of change and a role model for them is Greta Thunberg, but mainly because she made them realize that they also have a voice. I've been working recently with youth in the upper classes of primary school, so 13, 14 years old. And as part of the workshops, we were creating lists of post-pandemic postulates and protests. And I was really amazed by how many of these postulates were eco-conscious, how many of them spoke about the planet and the animals. And I also know personally families where it is the young people, often teenagers, introducing recycling or vegetarianism into their households, fighting with the parents. And they give me a lot of hope. But my main area of work is prison, and last year I've been running similar workshops in the prison, and I was also there very surprised by how many of people choose to speak about the planet and the climate when they are given the voice and the possibility. We have this exercise of saying, hey, a big television like BBC is coming and you've got 30 seconds, what is your message? And you would be surprised at how many pro-ecological messages you can hear also in a place like prison.
Thank you very much. Could you mention one example? Could you quote something just to get an impression?
Well, you see, prison is a topic that I can talk on for hours. So I was trying to keep it brief. But okay, let me tell you a little bit of the context. prison is an example of a total institution, which means that any changes are introduced very slowly there. You could say that it's as if the time has stopped in prison somewhere in the previous century. It's almost impossible to buy fresh fruit or vegetables in the canteen. Gardens are not allowed. And if you're a vegetarian, it practically means that you eat this cheap processed cheese every day for lunch. I remember one day I met a girl that was just released from prison with her three-year-old son just outside of the prison gate. There are 2 prisons in Poland where mothers can serve their sentence together with their children up to the age of 3. And this little boy was standing still, looking up with an expression of shock and complete amazement on his face, because he has never seen the trees in his life. And for me, that is like a postcard, like a symbol of what prison is. In 2019, we ran together with some artists from Warsaw and Wrocław the first edition of Summer in the Teatr camp in that very prison. It's the prison of Krzyżaniec. And the mothers were released from the prison on a special 2-week permit. Their children joined them. They came from all over Poland to spend 2 weeks in this kind of leisure complex outside of the prison and to create a performance together. And we've decided that as scenography for that performance, we are going to use only household and garden plants. We basically fulfilled the whole visiting room of the prison with plants. And when the project was finished, each of the children could take a plant home. These plants had names, each of them was personalized, and the prison made an exception and allowed also the mothers to take these plants back to their cells, which is against the regulations. This came to my head because working in a prison of Wrocław with long sentence male prisoners, I had a participant there who had a dream of having a garden and of being able to cook his own food. And the only way for him to do it was to go against the rules. He managed to plant strawberries in the corner of the exercise yard, and they grew. And he, each of those strawberries was made of gold. But it is, I'm saying all of this to say that it is a completely brutal reality, but on the other hand, meaning that it is a place where time stopped somewhere in the last century, also means that people that write letters, they do handcrafts, because if you want to give a gift to somebody, you need to make it with your own hands. You're not going to buy it. And similarly, if you need to make an object for theater, you have to make it with your own hands. Sometimes I say, half joking, half serious, that I learned feminism working with elderly women in a homeless shelter. And I could say that I learned recycling from imprisoned women in that prison of Krzyżaniec. Nothing gets wasted there. If you need to find a dress or shoes, you need to find somebody that has your size and ask to borrow. And I did 2 productions there on no budget, not even low budget, but no budget. Kind of entering in that space and trying to create things for theater together with those women. I remember on one rehearsal, Yola, one of our actresses, came with this bag of things that she's been stashing for years somewhere in the library because they might be useful in theater. It was full of everything I'm not going to mention. when we needed dresses for the scenography, one of the male prisoners made them for us. He learned how to sew in prison thanks to one very out of the box thinking educator. And I have to say that today, if I want to throw something away, I think twice. And I wonder what else it could become. And then I ask myself, what would Yola do? And what she would be able to make out of it.
Great, Agnieszka. Thank you very much. It's an extraordinary example of becoming zero waste, of the necessity of being zero waste. I would like to ask immediately, Joanna, do you think zero waste theater in some institutional settings is possible, or only in some under special conditions, in special circumstances where theater is, as we mentioned before, made out of passion and necessity to introduce some improvement to the life and to awake awareness. It works, as Agnieszka has described. Is it possible at institutions to be zero waste when you produce performing arts?
Thank you for this lovely tale, Agnieszka. I also promoted one arts program in the prison, and the most amazing thing was that I had 3 phones there. So 2 working from work phones, 2 mobiles from 2 different jobs, and my own personal. And I have to give that away at the entrance. And I thought that I feel more free inside than outside. But of course, it's not the same. It's only I know that the life there is very hard, and I would not compare myself even to literal prison, because I'm a free woman. But I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about this one scene from Przesłuchanie, the movie with Krystyna Janda, and there's Bożena Dykiel, this actress who's playing one of the prisoners that is spitting and trying to grow wheat, I think, on the windowsill. And I was thinking about this image when you said, and that came to me. So it's it's amazing that you cannot see you see tree first time in your life. So I was very moved. Thank you. Now the question was again, can we be zero waste in theaters? Okay. So no. Every production, everything we do has an impact on environment, and we should be aware of that there's no kind of way to make zero of that, because the audience have to come in some kind of way. Yeah. So if they came by bikes or the public transportation, there is also institutions who give away, you have a cheaper ticket if you go by the zero emission, or less emission transportation. But I think you can try to be less waste. But the thing we forget, what also already companies private companies are doing and showing off, because it's something to show off, is that we're forgetting that the return and turn the negative impact into positive. So in every kind of production, we have to include something that will generate something good to the environment. For example, we will grow some trees. We will do something for biodiversity, for the animals, for the birds. We will make booths for the birds in our neighborhood. We will stop cutting grass, or only cut twice a year. We will, buy equipment to save rainwater. So it's it should be, included in every kind of funding that you have to return something to the nature. And this is something we can think of, and minimalize. So control each time what we do and check how we can save that next time. But the thing you said, and it's very important, check what you already have, because things you have may be useful. Borrow things from other institutions. In Warsaw, there is this platform that allows art institutions to borrow themselves equipment they have. Like, we have the lights, we have the microphones, we don't have to buy the new things, and this database is there, but also it's like a collective. They meet, they get to know new things, and they have guests each time. So it's like a community. But also we think about the art project in the way that it's not dying very fast. Yeah, we prolong the life of the project. And thank God, maybe also COVID, that we started to record, that we started to stream. Streaming, it's not without the cost, but if you have a meeting in your art institutions and there's 20 people who came, yes, and you spend it like, 20,000 zlotys for that. But if you stream it and like 300 people will see it, it's like you think that the cost is less for one person to see something, to access it. But yeah, overproduction is that produce less thoughtfully and in the way that it's more accessible. So this is also the way we should think. Also, take what we have, borrow, like buy used clothes, etc., or borrow clothes or bring your clothes. That's also. But again, I'm thinking how, because there's this is a war, a war between what you're supposed to do, what traditions tell you, what looks like good, versus the thing that are handmade, do it yourself, second hand, etc. So it doesn't look so glamorous anymore. But I think, and the other thing that you said, that it's the prison stopped in the previous century. We had that in the 80s and the 70s. And when I started the conversation about the garbage, or for example, buying milk that you got in the, people said we had that, but we lost it because we got westernized. Yes. So this is amazing how we can find connection to the past. And there is this kind of fashion that you can say on Instagram called #cottagecore, where girls or people are like creating this, very fairy tale kind of life in the village, or in the countryside, and they showing they're doing bread, then doing the crafts, etc., etc. And this is the fashion, I think. If you say something about it, not the being ecological for show, of course. If you're like showing too much that you're like so ecological, maybe that's a reason. Motivation is the fashion, not internal motivation to save the earth or change the world. So less waste, yes, but you have to really work on it. That's why you have to have more time. There is no good impact on the environment if you working in a hurry. Yeah, because you take a cab, you order the food in, you eat like snacks, etc., etc. So like a slow theater to produce slow, to etc. But I have to say this. Not only like the eco stuff is important, but also the ethics, which is happening in Poland right now. A lot thinking about the ethics, because the new cases about mobbing and sexual abuse is coming up. So for me, it should be the whole thing. Like, should you watch a play where people suffered producing it? I don't think so. It's cruelty. So it's something like a fair culture, fair theater should be also like you have fair trade, yeah. So I think this should be also included, because people who are like they feel good with themselves, they create work with their passions, they have more space to take care of the environment. and of themselves. Like, this is very, very important. And what we said, that usually the knowledge and the pressure goes from down up. This is the problem. This is the war as well. War of generations. The older generations don't understand exactly, because they don't have the knowledge, where they should have it. Like, from where? It's not in schools right now. Even we are fighting for the public common ecological and environmental education. What is happening right now? But children have YouTube. They have more access to knowledge and know how to search it. But people who are older, they don't have exactly a place or a moment to find where they gather the knowledge. Like you have to read a lot. You heard something here, something there. So it's very important to create conversation, meeting, to exchange your knowledge, because it changes. It changes, it evolves. You can, and also theater can show that. Yeah, like the right ways, how to be more positive on the environment.
Okay, thank you very much, Joanna. When I'm listening to you, I have the impression that maybe we should think in terms of ecosystems, where everything is connected. We have responsibility, we have empathy, we have ethics, we have education, we have young people, older people, we have CEOs or directors of cultural institutions, and individuals who are working in different divisions, or often on contracts, like project contracts as a freelancer artist.
If I can ask one thing, like, what the problem is for me? How far you can get to realize your artistic vision, not thinking about the environment. Because I know a lot of artists that their creative vision is the basic and the environment doesn't matter. But also it changes, as you said. Yeah, so how to negotiate with those who like their artistic vision is wasteful in some way, maybe beautiful, but very wasteful. And I have to tell one thing, that it changes. If you want to get funding, you have to be green, because there's more and more funding for green projects. There's more and more, like, you have to show that you made this project with thinking of an environment to get points. Yes, in the funding. This is what, like, art education program in Warsaw is now, that you get points to write in that you will think about the environment. So that's what I wanted to add.
Well, that's great, because it corresponds directly with my next question, which will be one of the last questions tonight. The public policy. I don't want to reduce it to the cultural policy, because you, Agnieszka, are working also in the social context. So I suppose you are also impacted by the public policy outside of the culture. Do you see the necessity to reformulate, redesign the public policy, just like you said, Joanna, that the institutions and individuals are more or less forced to include the ecological aspect in their applications and plans and strategies? Maybe Agnieszka, you have the best perspective connecting culture and other aspect of public life, social life.
Well, I think that audience, again, I'm going to say responsibility, also shares responsibility. And I'm very thrilled at seeing how many theaters are now introducing, for example, the figure of pedagogue into their program, and how they try to become more participatory. Kind of the pandemic, it also forced a lot of big theaters to move outside of the walls if they wanted to meet the audience. Yeah. So this idea that Joanna was already talking about of the gardens is really thriving. In Wrocław, the Mime Theater has made its first ever premiere in the gardens, breathtaking, beautiful gardens outside of the theater. And it's a great success, that play. Capitol Theatre in Wrocław, Scena Robocza in Poznań, a lot of places to be mentioned that are using these outside spheres as meeting points with their audience. Then, I think I would have to second a lot of what Joanna said, that it is a choice of an audience member if he or she travels by bike or by public transport to the event. It is his choice if he buys a gadget or not. There is also the issue of the overproduction of gadgets. So he controls it in a way. But taking that aside, he chooses if he participates in all these events that are designed as participatory events to make his voice heard, and not only on the ecology, but on the program of the institution and on the needs of the audience. And in my practice, it doesn't make sense to make a theater performance not thinking about the audience. If I make a performance that has to be presented inside of the prison as well as outside of the prison at festivals or in theaters, then I have to think of how to design, how to tell the story so that it's inclusive for everybody. And I always try to make a meeting with the audience after the performance, and I sometimes think that it's more important than the performance itself, especially if we're speaking about the context of the prison. The possibility to sit and have a conversation, to ask questions. Sometimes these events, these meetings last much longer than the performances themselves. It is also a possibility for the families to come and see those imprisoned people in a completely different light, and maybe not bring down the walls, but take one. How do you say this? That's interesting.
One
brick, that is the word. Take one brick out to really see the human being on the other side. I would say as much of audience participation programs as possible in theaters to really, again, like this is, I think, the main word of our meeting tonight, create dialogue.
Thank you very much. You have addressed the topic of audience, which I wanted to ask as one of the next questions, which is perfectly fine. But maybe, Joanna, you want to also bring together to those two aspects, audience and the responsibility of the public policies.
I would rather say I don't have no choice because my main, I was working in promotion marketing, but the basics of my careers is audience development and working with our institutions to open up and include the audience more and more, not to exclude. So for me, it's very connected, and because I have experience and knowledge from both of those parts, I can see that, for example, you said about playing outside. Teatr Ochoty was playing outside every year for free on a constitution square, Constitution Square, and it is zero waste then. You don't have the lights, you don't buy the tickets, etc., etc. Yeah, so in some way it was more ecological and accessible. And I think because we cannot stay inside, also with the art institutions like museums, our workshops, talks, why, if it's beautiful weather, we have to be inside and the AC is working. And I've been to so many things that I was questioning myself, why not to do it outside? Yes, to use like what's there. And the funny thing, I was promoting this Green Jazdów, Zielony Jazdów festival that was like first, I think, in Warsaw, like this kind of eco-green art festival. while I was working in Center for Contemporary Art in Warsaw. And what was amazing, nobody wanted to go inside. Like most of the events during the weekend were outside, like talks, breakfasts, conversations about books, like concerts, but there was regular exhibition inside. And the director came and said, "Joanna, do something for people to go inside." But I said, but they don't want to. And what it's amazing, like to show exhibitions, in your window. So it's not only like on the wall of the institution to make it more accessible, but also you said something about the gadgets and the transportation. But we can create situation where it's impossible to participate if you don't do that. For example, 2 years ago, I would say eco gadgets, okay, like this cotton, bags, etc., fantastic, yeah. Bamboo cutlery, for example. But now I know it's not. And when I tell that it should be no gadgets, people look like me like I took away something from them, like their baby or something. And when I learned that to produce one cotton bag, you have to use it over 2,000 times to return the whole environmental impact to grow cotton, to create the pattern, to cut it, sew it, transport it, etc. And over 7,000 times you have to use it when it's organic cotton. So you would have to use it for 42 years. Impossible. And when I show this kind of numbers, people are understanding that they're not only having problem with the trash that they create, but that this trash wasted water, wasted environment before it came to us. And for example, printing one page. If you print one page of paper to create is 10 liters of water that you throw away. Yeah. And now when I say that on the workshops and ask, and now you want to print? It's like, no, I would think about every page. So you see, there's this, I think, but going back to the main question, the audience and the opening to the audience, making it more, this is what audience want. They seeking knowledge. There's this part of people, the group, that they don't know how, but they would do something because they don't have place to learn. And this is a group that we should take care of, because opening for the audience is not only like create something that they will, eat easily or, consume easily. No, it's also to take responsibility for them as people and their environment, because we are all in this together. So, the audience is also people who are like working on daily basis. They have lives and we can change them. We can make them behave like more proper towards environment. And we have this power. In Poland, there's 188 theaters, public theaters. I don't know how many, collectives, groups, etc. And in 2019, there was like 69,500 people who came to the shows. How much potential we have? We are spread, and we can, have a conversation. The same with other art institutions. General in Poland, there's like over 15,000. This public, like houses of culture, museums, galleries. We are spread like churches or schools, so we have the same impact. It's amazing because we can connect to the audience locally, and we can be the only place where they can learn about the environment. So this is why we should do it, because we have, the potential to do it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Joanna. I guess you have mentioned for next time the word responsibility, and I have the impression that the fight we are involved in June 2021 is about responsibility and becoming responsible, and in turn also essentially making people responsible too. So we have been talking a lot about what is happening now. However, the topic is from its nature connected with the future. You have also mentioned the topic of tomorrow and the future at some point. So my last question, or maybe a challenge or invitation for you, is to, let's imagine it's 2030. So we have 9 years. What you see? What has the theater done for the climate? What have changed? What didn't change? And this question I would like to ask both of you, but also invite the people listening to us to share the thoughts and visions via Mentimeter. You have the link on the chat at YouTube if you want. We are very much curious what is your impression and fantasy about the future. But coming back to you, my dear guests, what would you say? What you see? It's 2030. Let's say it's June. What is happening? Where we are? What has the theater done? Agnieszka, your mic is open, so I may ask you first.
So I wanted to give you a quote. In one of my performances entitled Women's State, Chorus for One Actress, the performance begins with, I need to read this, with these words. Imagine a place that is all green, rich in lakes, mountains, and seas. The residents of Women's State, for that is the name of the place, are always smiling, never rushing, living in perfect symbiosis with the nature and with other human beings. If one gets hurt, the other reaches out to help him at once. Everybody works for the common good. We recycle, never pollute the air, and always take care of the environment, with the full support from the government, which grants lifelong insurance to each growing tree as part of the oxygenation policy. So that's my utopian version of 2030. But I mean, I could imagine a nationwide movement of performances that are made only with recycled scenography and set and costume departments. So I imagine that one artist could, go to their storage and say, okay, how do I make a performance not buying even one item, and then it could spread and become a Poland-wide movement of performances being made only in this way. That would be my dream. But me personally, I hope that by 2030 I will be running a place called Center for the Arts of the Imprisoned in this prison of Krzyżaniec that I was telling you about, and that it would be the first culture institution run within the prison walls and co-run by inmates on all levels of decision, production, and advocacy. And if I can return to my garden story, I could say that I wish to create a little garden inside this island of concrete walls, and by letting it grow stronger, slowly work its magic into changing the oppressive system from within. That is my personal dream for those years.
Thank you very much, Agnieszka. It's just beautiful to keep it simple, I guess. So I keep my fingers crossed for your visions, which are in a way utopian, but as you said, are very practical too. So I hope you will manage to establish your organization and do what you are dreaming about. So thank you very much. And I very much think I see what you are talking about and thinking about, because I guess you are, as an artist, thinking in pictures and images. And thank you very much for this very illustrative description. And Joanna, What do you see? We are in 9 years, June 2030.
Okay, before I go to that, I would only wanted to say to Agnieszka that in United States there are urban farms because there's something that getting friction right now. So urban farming, because you have products grown locally, you sell it cheaply because it's grown at the spot, and people who work there are previously been inmates. So this is, or they are. So and they get the food for free from this, So it's what you said. I can imagine it because it's also like been done now to help for them to have the job afterwards or during, to feel useful and to be independent with the food in the place. Where I see, can I be honest? No, it's very hard. We said we don't want to end at the low note, but it's what I see from researchers, from the research made by Ministry of Environment and Climate, the awareness is changing. The policies, last week we had that you have to, recycle your garbage, segregate your garbage because it's the law. And people are declaring that they're doing it, but still they're not doing it perfect. But they started to learn. Yeah, in Germany it's decades they doing it, and they doing now it perfectly. Of course, you have big fines if you don't do it, but we just started, so we don't have to expect the results immediately. But we're very impatient as a nation, of course. So when I look at the research, and they're doing it each year, so we can compare. So declaratively, people say they're more conscious about the problem of the environment, because 2 years ago it was at 9, the problems that Poland should take care of right now, 3 top were not environment. But last year, 2020, it jumps from 9th place to 1st place, that the environment is the most important problem in Poland. So I see a big shift in being conscious, but the knowledge must follow, the learning must follow to see and be surrounded by good ideas and the good, you have to be, everywhere should be something that already makes you ecological, because this is the easy way. If you have, I always ask, in the toilet, there's one funny story with the toilet and the theater, and I will tell it in a second, but if you're in the toilet and you don't have this, one paper towels, yeah, what do? And you're and go, yeah? So if you create a situation where you don't allow to waste the waste of the resources, people would not even notice that they did something right, because there was no other way. So it's a proper design of the situation and of the internal design. But the story with the paper is that Teatr powszechny, audience development, audience research. So they ask people questions: what do you like? What would you change? Etc. etc. And it was very positive, but the most negative questions were about the gray paper they use from recycling. People were complaining about the gray paper from recycling. And I said, you know what you can do? You can put on the viewing spot when you're using the toilet. So it's the inside of the door that everybody looks when they're using the toilet. Or on the other side, of course, information, why you do it. Yes, and what kind of impact of the environment you create, positive impact using this kind of paper. Because now it's not a place to complain, but a place to learn. Yeah, so you explain why you do it. This could be even a funny, exercise you can do inside an institution to place a funny, stories or explanations of why we choose to do this like we do. So this is toilet paper and theater story that I wanted to say. So I think the laws will be introduced, the awareness will grow, there will be new generation that will become this generation which decides. But unfortunately, the market is, cruel. Companies have to earn. Companies have to produce. So what we would have to introduce, and it's very like utopia kind of thinking, that we can live without production. And for me, I would love, because I'm over 40 in 2030, to live in a commune where we grow our food. Something like you said with your prison, but a commune, where we grow food, where we collect the rainwater, where we have our own, chickens, where, where the air is fresh and not polluted, and we have everything created that the house architecture of the house is passive, so it doesn't need the energy, and outside sources of energy. So this is my idea since I was small girl, and I hope someday it will happen. Yeah, that I could surround myself with friends and we can be sustainable all the way. That would be my dream.
Thank you very much, Joanna, for your vision and your desires to move to commune. I understand that. We have one comment from our audience, from our listeners, basically connected to the issue of rising awareness and education as a key for change. So thank you very much for listening to us and commenting. But what I would like to say also about the year 2030, we may also consider a new solution like augmented reality and virtual reality, replacing props, items, and maybe at some points also people involved, and maybe not to let them travel and so on. So there are plenty of things that are happening, that are changing. However, one of them is also the digital carbon footprint. And at this point, I wanted to actually end our discussion, because via streaming, we are also making a lot of impact. And we have already, or you have already said, plenty of very interesting issue addressing problems, challenges, and also hopes and solutions. So I would ask you last one time if you have any comments or last remarks.
Yeah, turn off your screens. I forgot because I was aware of that I should turn off my screen when I'm not talking, and it will be less this carbon footprint, but but I forgot about it. And also because I wanted for people to see us as a conversation, because there's only 3 of us. But usually when I do a workshop at the beginning, I didn't do that like half a year ago. I was not aware. But now in the beginning I said, if you want to say something, turn on your camera so I can see you. But we start from turning off our cameras. So this is one thing we can do. Also, we can produce shows in the way that people can choose the quality of the streaming. Yeah, so if we use like popular platforms, we can mention that if the quality of the image is good enough in lower quality for you, then you can change it and you can save, so this is very good also with audience development, to put the play only in a part of time and then take it down. Yeah, not to have it forever.
Learn right now, and I will introduce this advice into action. So now I'm going to switch off my camera, so you don't see me, but you can still hear me. And at this point, I would like to thank you very much for this involving and very interesting conversation we had. So it was great to have you here and to hear your voices and your experiences. Also, it was great to see you, I must admit, but we should find middle way to see us and to be aware of the impact we are having when we see us on a Zoom or Skype and so on. So thank you very much, Agnieszka. Thank you very much, Joanna. Thank you, Open Air Theatre Festival, for inviting us and for giving us the floor. And I keep fingers crossed for both of you and your projects. And I hope in 2030 we meet again, maybe, with our new experiences and responsibility, empathy, and educational impact. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.